Thank you kindly. Do you know if it's going? I didn't get a notification.
It says it started.
Oh, all right, great. There it is. My computer's just being slow. All right, hi everybody. Thanks for coming today. This is the very last one of these recipe demonstrations that we're doing for this summer recipe series. So that brings us to the end of our current challenge, which is the Improve Your Intake Challenge. So that is the fiber challenge we've all been doing for the past 4 weeks. I don't know if everybody on here is signed up for it, but today is the very last day to log your fiber foods to get points for that challenge. So here's your little friendly reminder after we're done here, go in the portal and make sure you have all your logs in for getting points for this challenge. So this last week of Improve Your Intake, we're talking about fruits and vegetables, and I'm pretty excited about this recipe because it gives us an opportunity to use both fruits and vegetables in the same snack, which is pretty exciting. If you've been following along with our program for a little while, you'll know that as a registered dietitian, I really believe that the best, or one of the best ways to get a good healthy diet with lots of balance is to get plenty of variety and eating lots of different foods from all different groups all the time, mixing it up. So this is going to give us a couple different food groups, pretty well-rounded little treat here. Before I introduce the recipe, I do have one tiny disclaimer, mostly just so that people don't think I'm crazy. I just want to point out that even though it's 61 degrees, the calendar says we still have 6 more days of summer. Fall doesn't officially start until next Thursday. So I don't know about you, but I want to grasp this last little hint of summer in these last 6 days and really get all I can out of summer before it turns to fall. Not that I don't love pumpkin spice season and all things leaves and weather and pumpkins, but I'm not ready quite yet to let go of this summer. I will not go gently into that good night. We're making popsicles today. So even though it's a little chilly outside, I really kind of am expecting us to have one more heat wave. Anybody else think it's going to warm back up? Yeah. And then plus I know the hardiest of the Vermonters think it's acceptable to eat ice cream all season, all year long. So we're doing popsicles, we're going for it. So you might be wondering why we are making popsicles at home when you can just go to the grocery store and buy some healthy popsicles out of the freezer section. And the answer to that question really boils down to the same thing we've been talking about this whole challenge, which is fiber. So this is a really exciting opportunity for us to talk about what separates a whole food from a food that's not a whole food. Now, whole food is a kind of nutrition buzzword that's been bouncing around for the past couple of years, I guess. And maybe you have subscribed to like a whole food pattern of eating, or you know somebody who says, oh, I try to prioritize eating whole foods. But really, what does that mean? So we're going to actually take this recipe as a nice example of what a whole food is and compare that to like a grocery store popsicle. So the grocery store popsicles are usually, even the ones that say made with real fruit, they're usually a fruit juice base. So fruit juice still technically is fruit. A lot of times those healthy popsicles will also add sugar to them. That reason is when things are cold, it's harder for them to taste sweet. So a lot of times we need more sugar in order to notice that they're sweet if it's a frozen treat. So let's look at this pear for a nice example and kind of compare what the whole pear is compared to maybe a cup of pear juice and what the different components are in there. Now, before we break down this pear into its nutritional components, I do want to take a moment to just kind of appreciate this pear for being a pear, right? The pear is a great example of something that is more than the sum of its parts. So more than being just the nutrition that we gain from it, a pear is a pear and it's a delicious snack. One of my favorite fruits. It's often one of the first things that babies eat. It's in season right now. I think that along with eating lots of variety, eating seasonally is a great way to get that variety kind of built into your routine. So it's pear season right now. They make me think of the end of summer, the beginning of fall. And I just want to thank this pear for being a pear. Thank you, pear. Before we boil it down to what the ingredients are. All right, there's your pear. So every fruit is going to have 4 main groups of nutritional components. So the first one for most fruits, they're mostly water. So this thing's mostly water in this little package. The second component that all fruits are going to have is sugar, right? They taste sweet, so they have sugar in them. So for the pear, the types of sugar mostly are fructose and glucose. That's what's in most fruits anyways. The third bit of nutrition that's in here is fiber, right? Our favorite topic here. So about 2/3 of the fiber in this pear is going to be in the peel, and that's going to be the insoluble fiber. So the one that adds the bulk to our stools. And then the other third of the fiber in this pear is the soluble fiber that's mostly in the flesh, and that's going to be what brings the water into our gut. So the last piece, we've got the water, the sugar, the fiber. The last piece in most fruits is vitamins and minerals. So the micronutrients, the tiny things that we can't really see. So for a pear specifically, it's going to be a great source of vitamin C, vitamin K, and potassium. So that's what you get if you eat the whole pear, the whole food. Now, if we were to turn into this into juice, some of these things are going to stay behind, and some of those things are going to go into our cup of juice. So the water, yeah, that's going to be in our juice, right? Juice is liquidy, so it's going to have plenty of water. The sugar, yeah, that's going to go into our juice because juice tastes pretty sweet. And most of the vitamins and minerals, probably not all of them, but a lot of vitamins are going to go into the juice. What we're left behind with that is not making it into the juice is the fiber. So essentially, to turn a fruit into juice, you're just taking away the fiber. And when you're left with just the sugar and the water and the vitamins, that sugar is going to act a lot different in your body than if it came paired, no pun intended, with fiber. So when you are eating fiber and sugar at the same time, your body's going to turn that energy into fuel in your blood much more slowly. So you'll get a nice slow and steady flush of energy rather than if you were to just drink the juice, that's going to get absorbed really quickly and maybe spike your blood sugar and then make you feel tired. So by including the whole fruit, you're getting that fiber with you. We're always talking about bringing our whole selves to work, right? We're going to let this pear bring its whole self to our popsicle. And the difference here is that in store-bought popsicles, even if they are made with real fruit, it's mostly juice with some chunks of the real fruit. So yeah, they want us to have some texture and think we're getting a whole fruit, but it's really just a couple of bites of fruit here and there. The other thing I want to point out is that this pear is really underripe, and that's going to make my popsicles not as delicious as if I had had the time to let this pear ripen. So if I weren't giving this presentation today, I probably would have let this pear sit on my couch, sit on the counter for like a whole week to get nice and soft and really sweet. This pear as it is not going to be very sweet. So I might add a little bit of sweetener to this popsicle in a way that I wouldn't have if I was using a really ripe pear. All of the fruits in this recipe, oh, we probably should pause and have Sophie show us where the recipe is. While you're getting queued up, Sophie, I'll just say all the fruits in this recipe are really, really sweet. And so you probably don't need a lot of extra sugar. I think it's going to be just as delicious without any added sugar if you are using really ripe fruits. If you have to have your popsicles today, like me, you might want to add some sweetener. All right, take it away.
All right, can everybody see this screen I have up here?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so we have challenges here, and I think we all know where this tab is, but sometimes the challenge details tab gets forgotten. So with the challenge details tab, you just click into this, and what you will see is the recipe and then your list of high fiber foods. If your screen, if your screen is smaller than mine, you might see this as more rather than as challenge details. So you can see, oh gosh. Here, watch me struggle, everybody.
It's Friday.
But when this gets smaller, then you see an arrow here, and sometimes this pops up as more instead, and then you can click into challenge details. So that's where this gets complicated, is when it doesn't say challenge details, or if you don't know that you have to click all the way over to challenge details.
Thank you. So if anybody wants to follow along, that's where you can find the recipe. We're just going to chunk this all into a blender and then pour it into our pop molds, and that's really as simple as it gets. So the first thing is the banana. I did get pretty lucky with a nice and ripe banana. I found it in my freezer. How lucky is that? Next up, we're going to do 1 cup of packed spinach, and you can really pack that in there tight. It might try to spring out a little bit, but you want to kind of maximize the spinach in here. These are called Greena Colada Pops because they've got the pineapple coconut, but they're green from spinach. And the reason that the pineapple is really good with this green popsicle is because it really masks that grassy flavor, and it has got a lot of flavor power. So I just put in 1 1/4 cups of coconut milk. I used canned coconut milk because it's a little bit higher in fat. So you can also use a coconut water if you're really concerned about saturated fat intake. But the reason that I chose to use this full fat coconut milk is because of food science, right? So when we are freezing something, in order to get a nice smooth texture, if you add some fat, it's going to make the ice crystals smaller so that it won't be quite so icy or crunchy and make it a little bit more smooth and creamy. So if you want to use like a fat-free coconut water or any other sort of non-dairy milk, you might get a little bit more icy and crunchiness. You can also add some healthier fat by adding some avocado. That would be nice because it's green in here, but I really needed a liquid, so I thought it'd be easy to use this full fat coconut milk. So I did a cup, 1 1/4 cups. That's what it needed when I tested this recipe a couple weeks ago. We'll see if conditions are different today. It might need a little bit more liquid. All right, so I'm gonna blend up just the spinach, the banana, and the coconut milk pretty smooth, and it should be nice and green. I think these headphones block out the sound of the blender, so it's kind of weird. So that's nice and green. There's not really any chunks of spinach in there. I want it to be pretty smooth because we want to get the spinach smooth because we're going to leave the pear and the pineapple just a tiny bit chunky. So since my pear was not very soft, I cut it up into tiny chunks. If you've got a nice soft pear that's going to be a lot sweeter, you can just throw it in quarters and your blender should be able to handle a nice soft pear that way. And then I also have 1 cup of frozen pineapple chunks. Starting off with some of our fruits frozen, like the bananas and the pineapples in this case, is going to further help that formation of the ice crystals. So you're less likely to have bigger ice crystals if you start with some of the things already frozen. So I'm going to pulse this up, but leave it a little bit chunky still. Because I like a little bit of texture in my popsicles. You could also make them totally smooth. All right, next up, we're going to add a little bit more fiber and healthy fats in the form of chia seeds. If you came to this demonstration last week, we made chia pudding, lots of chia seeds. You might have some left over. So I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon, which is going to give us a little bit more nutrition, but also going to help with absorbing some of that water and making it a little bit nicer of a texture. So just enough to blend it a little bit, mix it in. I am going to add a sweetener because of my sad pear, but if you've got a nice pear, you can leave it out and you'll probably be just as happy. This pear didn't get a chance to get to its full potential as a sweet, sweet fruit. I'm going to do just 1/2 a tablespoon of maple syrup in here. This is really up to your own preference of how much you want to put in. I think I said optional a tablespoon in the recipe, but with any sort of sweetener, use your best judgment and how you like it. And then the final thing I'm going to put in that I didn't put in when I tested it that I thought it was really missing was a tiny squeeze of lime juice. So I'm just going to use a little bit of a wedge here and just squeeze in a little bit. I think it's going to give a nice kind of zip to these kind of tropical popsicles. All right, so now I'm going to blend this just enough to stir it, and then we'll mold it up. All right, looks good to me. I didn't blend it too much after I added in that pear and pineapple because I didn't want to lose those texture chunks. Okay. So at this point, you could really stop here and you could drink this as a delicious smoothie and you could just say, I'm done. But since we're capitalizing on summer, I'm going to freeze this in popsicle molds. So for popsicle molds, you can use anything that you have around the house, like Dixie cups or little cups, but an actual set of popsicle molds is not actually that expensive. I've seen them in the grocery store for like $4. I bought a set at IKEA once for $1. That was like my best IKEA find ever. And they're really fun as a way to kind of get some sort of healthier snack in the summertime. So I highly encourage that investment. It's a really fun way to to capitalize on the summer. To make it easier to fill, I like to pour from the blender into a smaller cup that has a pour spout on it. Helps to minimize the mess a little bit. So these just kind of come out from here. These ones happen to be a little bit more than a third of a cup. I'm going to use this little guy to fill them. Does anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback? Has anybody made popsicles at home before? I kind of want to open it up a little bit.
I'm diabetic, so have you had any experience like using artificial sweeteners?
That's a great question. And so that is a great way to think about where we're using the whole fruit versus juice, right? So the fact that we're including all this fiber is going to be really blood sugar friendly. And I would say that if you're concerned about spiking blood sugar, I would just say to get some really nice ripe fruit and leave it out. Maybe try to have some protein at the same time as you have one of these popsicles, because that will further slow how your body is absorbing that sugar. So maybe like having a cheese stick on the side. But as far as the sweetener, I don't really think it's totally necessary if you're using the right fruit. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but including fiber in a meal plan for when you have diabetes is a great way to take care of your blood sugar. All right, so these are all full. I'll pop the lids on, and unfortunately, I don't have a finished one to show you, but tomorrow we'll have popsicles around here. Anybody else have any other questions? These are going to go in the freezer, and it might take, I would say, like 4 to 6 hours for them to freeze solid, depending on how much frozen fruit you started with and how cold your freezer is and how big your popsicles are. So with that, I'll show off an unfrozen popsicle. And that's all I've got for today. Thanks so much for coming. Again, don't forget to log your last couple of days for the challenge. And there's a survey that went out with that last email today. And we would love feedback on this challenge. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.